There's a bench beside a lake in the town of Evermere that most people never notice. It's weathered, slightly crooked, overgrown wildflowers brush its feet. By day, it blends in. But by night, specifically at 12:03 a.m., it becomes something sacred. That's when Elena Rain arrives. Always barefoot, always with a red ribbon in her hair. She walks slowly, as if every step is a conversation with the earth. Her presence is quiet but magnetic, like a lullaby only hearts can hear. She never brings her phone, never speaks to anyone. She simply sits, gazing across the lake's mirror surface, lost in something deeper than the water. Some say she's grieving, others say she's waiting. What no one knows is that Elena made a vow when she was 13, on the very night her father's body was pulled from the lake. He had died saving a stranger's child. And that night, Elena tied her red ribbon to the bench and whispered, "If I ever forget what love looks like, bring me back here." Now 29, she had returned to that bench, every single night, for 3 months. Always at 12:03. Daniel Cole was a different story entirely. Once, he was a celebrated photographer. His portraits of villages in Nepal and sunrises in Patagonia won awards and adorned magazines. But none of that survived Claire's death, his fiancée. She'd been on her way to surprise him at a gallery opening when her car was struck by a truck. The moment the world found out about his brilliance, Daniel stopped caring about it. He quit. He sold his gear. He moved to Evermere, no one knew why, and became a ghost with a heartbeat. Then one night, walking to clear the echo in his chest, he wandered past the lake and saw her. He didn't speak. She didn't look at him. But he returned the next night, and the one after, until he made it part of his ritual too. Not for the lake, not for peace, but for her. At first, they sat on opposite ends of the bench. Then, slowly, the space between them shrank. On the 7th night, Elena spoke without turning. "You always show up at 12:03. "So do you," Daniel replied. "What are you waiting for?" He paused. "A reason to believe again." She nodded. "Same." They didn't speak again that night, but something invisible had cracked open. Over the following weeks, their conversations deepened. They shared pieces of themselves like tattered old letters, words full of history, corners worn by time. Elena talked about her father, how he taught her to fish, how he died holding a child that wasn't his, how people called him a hero, but it didn't make the house feel less empty. She spoke about silence, that strange kind of silence that lingers even in laughter. Daniel told her about Claire, her love for classical piano, how she'd leave sticky notes with poems in his camera bag, how he still had her last voicemail saved, but hadn't listened to it in over a year. He confessed he stopped taking pictures the day she died. Elena listened. That's what she did best. One night he asked, "Why the red ribbon?" She smiled gently. "It was the last thing my father gave me. Said it was a promise. That love ties us to the people who never leave, even when they're gone." Daniel looked at her then, not like someone noticing a person, but like someone remembering what beauty felt like. But not every love story flows like a stream. Some come with rapids. Miriam, Eleanor's older sister, started to notice. "You've changed," she said over tea one morning. "You're smiling again. That man at the lake, don't let him undo what you've survived." "I'm not afraid of being hurt," Eleanor said softly. "I'm afraid of feeling nothing at all." Meanwhile, Daniel was wrestling with something darker. Theo, his best friend and former photography partner, came to visit and found Daniel developing photos, again, in secret. "You're taking pictures again?" Theo said, shocked. "Just one," Daniel replied. It was Eleanor, backlit by the moon, ribbon glowing like fire. That's not just a photo, Theo said. That's your soul. You're falling for her. Daniel looked away. I can't lose someone again. Maybe you won't, Theo said. Maybe she's the one who finds you. And then, she stopped showing up. No warning, no goodbye. Daniel returned each night. 2 y 3. No, Elena. For 4 nights in a row. On the 5th night, he found a red ribbon tied to the bench. On the 6th, one fluttered from a tree branch along the trail. By the 7th, a trail of red ribbons stretched through the woods. He followed them. Each ribbon brought back a memory, a glance, a conversation, a heartbeat. They led to the willow tree where Eleanor's father had died. She stood there barefoot, as always, but this time her hands were trembling. I ran, she said before he could speak. I got scared. This bench, this place, it wasn't supposed to be about love. It was supposed to remind me that love ends. He stepped closer. But it doesn't, he whispered. It becomes something else. Her tears fell, slow and free. I didn't know if you'd follow. I always follow you. They stood in silence as the wind stirred the leaves, and for the first time since Claire's death. Daniel reached for his camera, not to capture her, but to capture the feeling. That moment, raw, human, unscripted. He didn't press the shutter, he just held it there and held her. 1 year later, Danielle's photography exhibit opened in the city. The collection was titled 1203. The final photo was never taken. It was just a frame of light, facing the bench. People asked what it meant. He'd only say, sometimes the best moments don't belong in photos. They belong in memory. Eleanor walked in late, her red ribbon still tied, but now with golden heels in her hand. She laughed as she saw him. This time, I brought shoes. He met her at the door and said, You won't need them where we're going. And together, they walked out into the night. No bench, no silence. Just 2 souls stitched back together by something bigger than grief. Because real love doesn't arrive with fireworks. It shows up barefoot, at midnight, and sits quietly beside you, until you're ready to believe again.